I wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it.
Right.
But there are people out there, if you offer them $50,000 in cash, let's go. As opposed to $150,000 in a check.
And that's fair.
And sometimes the situations, I mean, I could even take it even further. Sometimes the situations are set up for certain people to not be, they couldn't take the check if they wanted to.
So on this show, we have always talked about responsibility as it relates to artists and reading that damn contract, right? This is what we've talked about a lot. Like there's not that much, support or sympathy or empathy for people that don't read their contracts on this show. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, at this point, not really.
I mean, what I'm saying is over our time, we've come to the conclusion where you want to try to read your contract before you sign it. Is that fair?
We have preached to artists on the show that you need to read your contract.
That's what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. So Nick Cannon was being interviewed, and he talked about how the lawyers have a certain play in this, and it might not necessarily, like, the reading of the contract is important, but there's two sides to it. There's the lawyer, and then there's the record label relationship on the opposite side.
So the relationship with
between the lawyer and the record label that might influence certain things. Of interest. There we go. I see. So let's run the clip on this one, and then we can react and discuss.
Complain about their contracts because they had horrible attorneys. Your attorney was actually in pocket with the label. Mm-hmm. And they actually trying to get in good with the label because the label got the best attorneys. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to be able to continue to work not just with this artist but all of your artists and elevate because they want that job.
Give your publishing up. Don't worry about it. It's not that deep.
And they're going to come to you and tell you, oh no, this is the best deal I could get for you, when really they having drinks with the motherfuckers they was negotiating.
And what you don't understand is you on the outside, you the new artist, you come through, you like, I'm getting such and such attorney that he been kicking it with them for 35 years.
35 years.
Was representing special ed back in the day.
And that's the same thing when it comes to these child support lawyers, these divorce attorneys. They all
know each other.
So, upon hearing that, shout out to Gillie and Wallo, because that's the source or whatever. Or that's where Nick Cannon was. But does that, I'm not going to say alter your perception or how you think, but does it at least make you look at it from a different lens? Because to me, that sounds valid.
I think this is what we've always kind of suggested, though.
You think so?
Is that there are a lot of snakes in the industry and that you have to be on top of your P's and Q's because everybody's out to get you.
In addition to reading your contract.
This is
you can't read your contract. It's written in it might as well be written in Klingon.
To me, it would be Braille. Like the contract would be Braille. Like it'd be something I couldn't read.
Yeah, I guess maybe to an extent. If I'm being honest, but I don't know. I think it still falls in line. To me, it's an extension of what we say. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's something to be aware of.
Do you buy what Nick Cannon is saying from a standpoint of lawyers being in bed with the labels and, some type of foul play perhaps being on the back end? I don't think this is far-fetched at all.
I don't think it's far-fetched, but also we talked about making the band a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And I just remember when they were like, okay, we're gonna pick a manager. And this episode stands out to me more than anything because it's like they picked a manager and they picked Puff Daddy's manager.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like,
easily one of the dumbest decisions ever made in real life, in real time.
And I was like, there are a lot of things that are conflicts of interest that if you're an artist, you don't know. And you can be mad at the artist, you can be mad at the person that introduced the conflict of interest, but it gets down to like maybe you should talk to the person that has a good deal and who is their lawyer. Yeah. Because if your label is suggesting a lawyer, you might as well just get ready to get robbed. And that's what happens a lot of times. It's like the label will say, "We'll give you a manager, we'll give you a lawyer." That should be illegal technically. Yeah, it should. And maybe in some places it is, but I'm just
because it smells like a setup. It's a setup.
It's a setup. All these people are going to go ahead and say, okay, this is what we got for his career. We're only going to give him this much money. We're going to bend the advantage to ourselves. We're not here to take care of these kids. If they don't know any better, then F them. So
capitalism.
Well, there you go.
There we go, Lone.
So
I want to make sure you got it in.
And it's true though.
It is,
and it's hard because a lot of these kids, they're coming from artistic places or they're coming from the street. They don't trust lawyers anyway, because the only time they see a lawyer is when they go to court, and they'll get the same lawyer that helped them get out of a jam on a criminal situation, that doesn't make you an entertainment lawyer.
That's fair.
You know, there are so many. It's just the same way, you know, you wouldn't go to a podiatrist if you had a heart problem.
That's fair.
You know, I remember Mike Tyson, when he was going through his law, he basically had a tax lawyer trying to defend him on a criminal case, and it's like, well, no wonder he lost. You know,
there's different levels of expertise in these things.
Exactly. So I think that I don't know who Jay-Z's lawyers are. I don't know who Nas or any, you know, because there's some people who have never complained about being robbed by the music industry. Those are you should find out who those people are.
Yeah.
And get your lawyers.
Try to associate with them.
Yeah, and see exactly what advice you could get from them as far as the lawyers and the people who aren't out here to rob. Because you hear about, the whole thing with this Nickelodeon thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Where, you know, they talked to Kenan Thompson. He didn't have direct knowledge of that stuff.
Right.
But he talked about how, like, somebody robbed him of basically the money he made when he was at Nickelodeon. And it was his accountant and lawyer at the time.
Right.
A lot of these people do not. That's the only way they get over. That's the only reason they get paid. That's why the only reason they don't have no talent as far as being on the screen or being on the microphone, you know, so they're only getting a percentage, and say they don't have enough percentages to make up for the point where they could be as rich as the people that they represent. Then they're going to start robbing.
And Keelan.
I see what you robber. Yeah, I see.
Look, I remember when I bought my first house, and I'll just put it like this: I bought the house from an uncle, my uncle's brother. I didn't know what I was doing. I was young. I mean, I was old enough to know better, but I didn't know better.
Right.
And it was my first house. Just had a good job. Bought a car, did all this stuff, and it's like, hey, my brother's got a house for sale. Come check it out. I wasn't looking, but I looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks like it's pretty good. And he was like, I have the inspection person already here. I already have a realtor that I work with. You can just use her. You can do all this stuff. And I did pretty much the electrician, the person that was buying the house already knew.
All the
stuff was already set up, and
you're thinking they're making this much easier for me.
Exactly. And as naive as I was at the time, I'm just like, okay, it's making a very complicated process a lot easier for me to get what I need. When in realistic,
it's a family lead.
Yeah. Which in realistic, which is how a lot of this stuff, I don't want to say family necessarily, but I'm just articulating how it stretches across multiple ranges. But years later, I don't live in that house anymore.
Right.
I had to move out of that house because of crazy amount of mold and a bunch of other issues related to it.
I remember.
And looking back on it, I would have done the entire thing a whole lot differently, and I probably could have got the house for a lot less if I would have not. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't. So it's just, it goes around everywhere. I don't really blame anybody for that except for myself, but these situations are messed up, and people are always going to be preying on those that are younger, even if it's not like a direct, it's not the preying that you envision, like I see this young artist and I'm going to take advantage of him and take him for everything he's got. No, people are just looking for their piece a lot of times too, and to put their people in positions whether or not, it's good for the whole situation or not. So to Nick Cannon and Wallo and them, that was Gillie, right?
Wallo and Gillie, yeah.
Yeah, it was both of them.
But to listen to them talk about them, they are all people that have credentials to talk about this particular thing. So I have no reason to not believe anything that they're saying right now.
They've all been through the major label system.
It lends a label. Lends a level of credibility to that because it's coming from people that I'm assuming have been through it multiple times and understand.
So outside of me just believing them anyways, based upon what I know, that adds another level of credentials to it. So for you asking, do you believe it or not? Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't look. I'm just like, how are you in 2024 still getting the new edition, the TLC, the
now that's
NWA
different.
deal?
That's different.
Like to where like in the contract for the DOC as a writer, like it literally has the words "watch and chain" as payment.
Yeah.
So that tells me that at this point, I would assume with technology and the knowledge and everything that these artists have at their disposal, if you're still signing up for those, then you just don't have a lot of people around you that care about you at this point.
But also,
a lot of smoke screens out here.
No, I agree with that too.
Sometimes it's hard to find the right information if you don't know where to look.
And be clear, because I want to make sure I make this clear, because even though the right people might not be the right people.
For sure.
So don't forget that part.
Yeah.
But this is the game they run on, a lot of people who are, look, if I show you a briefcase and it has $50,000 in it.
Right.
And I show you a check for $150,000. I'm coming straight from an impoverished situation. You say, oh, you're going to have to wait 7 days for that check. And you got to be able to take it to your bank.
For it to clear.
I might be coming from a situation, I don't have a bank.
Right.
Bank? What are you talking about?
Give me the cash.
You know, I can't wait 7 days. They're about to put my mother out on the street today.
Right.
And you tell me here's $50,000 in greenback cash that I can it happens in sports, it happens in music, it happens like people will take. There are people. I mean, I wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it.
Right.
But there are people out there. If you offer them $50,000 in cash, let's go. Yeah. As opposed to $150,000 in a check.
And
that's fair.
And sometimes the situations. I mean, I could even take it even further. Sometimes the situations are set up for certain people to not be. They couldn't take the check if they wanted to. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go into a crazy amount of detail, but we're dealing with with my wife immigrating here, migrating here. We're dealing with a lot of that stuff right now.
Yeah.
To where it's the amount of loops and loopholes that it takes to be quote unquote legal here and to do everything by the books. I understand why people come here and are not documented.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
They make it so hard. One, but it's neither here nor there. But
yeah.
Oh, I know. We know.
But at the same time, it's like, like it's like that for all walks of life and all things. So yeah, that's a good point, Jay.
But nah, man, when I saw Nick talking about that, I was like, yeah, this will be a good one because you can see it in his eyes. You can see because he's probably the seriousness with which he's discussing it. You know what I'm saying?
Because he's probably seen it firsthand. Being somebody who's had a record contract, like Nick's put out music. I mean, people will say what they, but he's been inside of.
He's been an artist for a long time.
He's been inside the major label system when records were actually selling.
Did you like Gigolo?
I can't front and say I didn't.
At least you honest. At least you.
I can honestly say, and this is not even a clown, I don't like any Nick Cannon music.
Gigolo was straight.
No, that's the only song I know.
But I don't know any Nick Cannon music. I don't know any songs that he's done.
But Gigolo with a lot. Well, never mind.
Wait, is that his song?
Yeah, it's Nick Cannon.
Produced by one Mr. Redacted. Is that what we're doing? Because as I heard the show last, and y'all was saying Redacted.
Come on, man.
Did he?
Come on.
Also starts with an R.
Is it da da da? No.
That's it.
Sing the song. Sing the song.
Why was you?
Because you know it. Sing it.
I'm a gigolo with a lot so
many. Oh,
okay. What am I thinking of? It's like that's
Gigolo.
Gigolo. Oh,
I think it's different.
No, you're thinking of something else.
I don't know what you're doing there.
I'm thinking of a Royce the 5'9" song off of Street Hop that Fonte sings on.
Okay, so we in two different alternate universes right now. Like, I don't know what, because we in two different universes right now.
Because Fonte goes, hoo-hoo.
Yeah, when you hit the note, I was like, no, that's not Gigolo.
I'm like, what am I hearing? Me
and Jay Moore was in a whole different multiverse.
So it makes sense. I don't know any Nick Cannon songs. I don't think. I guess that's what I'm saying.